All right, so this is question 12 on the practice test. It looks like we had three different classes, right? We got one normal class, we got one class extending vehicle, and then we have a driver class, right? There's not too much going on with these two classes, so I'm just going to start off in main, right? It looks like we have a boat reference that is equal to a new boat, right? So these two match. That's kind of nice. So I got a boat reference, FB, and then it's given a new boat object. Right, and what do boat objects have? They have engines, or num engines, and then they also have a vehicle name, right? So let's go write that down. Vehicle name. I'm just going to say VName, because then I'm going to run out of space. Right, so VName, and then it also has N engines. Right, so that's what we're dealing with. And then I guess maybe for a second we can go ahead and see what does boat have access to? What can it see? Right? So it can see, all the methods from its parent class, right? So it can see the set name method, and it can also see this piece of data here, right? The string. Now, what can it see in boat? Well, this boat reference was assigned to a boat, right? So in other words, it can see everything here too, right? This isn't a case where like this is a vehicle being assigned to a boat. No, this is a boat being assigned to a boat. So it basically has access to just about everything here. Right, that's kind of nice. Now, granted, if I try like in a method here, saying like like vehicle name like equal to something, right? That's going to be bad, right? It's going to be bad because this is at the end of the day, this is still private, right? So I would have to temporarily be inside of the vehicle class in order to affect this boat's vehicle name, right? So that's just something I wanted to say, right? So let's go ahead and go to the constructor of boat and pass in two, right? So I'm going here and I am passing in two here, right? Now, technically, yes, there is a call to the parent's constructor, right? Because that's what happens with all subclasses, right? So I'm calling the parent's constructor first, so it's like super is implied to be like right there, right above num engines is equal to, because that's always the first line of every constructor of a subclass, right? So let's go ahead and go to vehicles constructor. Well, I go look at vehicle and there isn't an explicit constructor. So what does that mean? That means that Java has given vehicle the default constructor. Really just meaning that all data is set to default values. So vehicle name was probably set to null, right? So vehicle name null, right? And then now I get to go to this line and assign two to num engines. And that's totally fine because now I'm inside of the class boat, right? And I'm affecting the private data within boat, right? So this is all fine. Now I go to fastboat.setName. Now because this is a boat reference that was assigned to boat, right? It would make sense to go look at boat and see if there is a method called setName. If not, it probably exists in the parent class, right? If it doesn't exist in the parent class though, and no successors, right? Then then this is bad, right? Because then this method doesn't exist, right? But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and look for it, right? So we're looking for set name with the string parameter. That's not it. That's the constructor. This is data, right? Okay, fine. We're not out of hope yet. Let's go ahead and look in the vehicle class, right? And then we look for set name with a string parameter, and of course the only method inside a vehicle is exactly that. Public set name string parameter. So it looks like we're in business. Let's go ahead and pass Firebird to name, right? And then vehicle name is equal to name. So vehicle name is no longer null. It is Firebird. So notice how this call took us to the vehicle class, right? And that kind of allowed us to do something like this, something like vehicle name is equal to something without like say a getter or a setter, right? Um, maybe had it taken us to this class, and then it said vehicle name is equal to something, that would have been bad because this is still private data to vehicle. But that's not what happened. This call took us to the vehicle class, which is good, right? Okay, and then we're doing sys.out print fastboat, right? So when I say print a reference like that, what I'm really saying is invoke its toString method, right? Right. So what is this? This is a boat reference, right? So I'm gonna look at my boat class, and I'm gonna look for a toString method, right? So I look, and then I see yes, we do have a toString method that's explicitly defined. If it was implicitly defined, then maybe I would go ahead and look at the parent class to see if it has an explicitly defined toString. If not, that's okay. We're just going to use Java's default toString, right? But it looks like we do in fact have an explicit toString method. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, right? So I'm returning now. Here's the traveling part, right? I'm returning super.toString, right? What does super mean? It means the parent class. So how does this read? It says return the super class's toString call plus num engines, right? So the super class, the parent class, vehicle, however you want to describe it. So super.toString means let's go ahead and go to vehicle and see what toString it sees, right? So I don't have an explicit toString inside a vehicle, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to call Java's default toString, and that kind of just prints out like what the object is. So what is the object pointing to? It's pointing to a boat, right? So maybe it prints out something like boat, and then it would say at some hexadecimal address, right? So this is what the toString, the default toString, would print out in this case, right? It's going to be really hard to know what the actual numbers here are because that's a memory address that was never explicitly defined here, right? So it's just going to be like some random address that would probably be pretty hard to put down on a test, right? But let's go ahead and try to continue this, right? We have this space here, which is basically just saying convert the answer to a string, right? And this is saying plus num engines. Okay, so I'm appending num engines to this string, right? And what is the num engines? It is 2, right? We're accessing this private data within the class that it was privatized in, right? So we're just going to say 2, right? So we're expecting an output something like this. But on a test, it's going to be really hard to know. By really hard, I mean next to impossible to know the actual address where this boat is lying in. So let's go ahead and check the answers and see what we have, right? So we got Firebird 2, Firebird, and then boat, but then without the 2 over here, right? So this certainly can't be it. That isn't even an address, neither is this. So in other words, it should be none of the other options that you would select. I hope this helped.